Welcome back, everybody. We're here with Star Wars Collector Spotlight. I have here a special guest, Jeff May. Jeff, welcome to the show.
I feel welcome to be here. Thank you for welcoming me to the bridge of your Star Destroyer. It means the world to me.
I figured it was a better background than just the closet or.
It's fair. Yeah, I've positioned mine to just automatically brand me as the kind of person that I am.
It's perfect. It's perfect. Yeah. So, Jeff, tell us, for those who don't know you, where do you hail from, and what do you primarily collect?
So I am my name is Jeff May, originally from the Kashyyyk region. I'm from originally from central Massachusetts. I'm from a small town called Charlton, and I now currently live in Los Angeles. I am I guess what you'd say, a professional entertainer. I host an infinite number of podcasts. I do YouTube pack breaks. I do all sorts of weird stuff. And I'm a professional nerd. That's the easiest way to say it. I'm a retired teacher, former boxer. I'm like the Forrest Gump of nerddom. I've done a lot of weird stuff. But yeah, so I started playing in almost immediately. I had heard about the game in, I'm going to guess, either a Wizard magazine or an Inquest, but most likely probably a Wizard magazine or something. I heard there was a Star Wars card game coming out, and it was actually my friend's mom bought me the 2-player, the one we all started with, I think, right? The 2-player set. And I was like, oh, I'm going to make a fortune. There's already these 3 Vaders in here. These are worth $50. I just saw it. And then that's not it. But it was she bought it for me because we did some yard work for her. And then I was just gone. I was just done. I was like shooting out of the gate. I was like, this is going to be my personality for the next 6 years. And then I just started becoming just obsessed with playing the game. I really loved it. I was a little bit young to get great at it. And then, really at the height, I was away at college. So it was hard for me to get to play. But, I think at one point in time, I cracked the top 50 for like,
oh, wow.
For a spell, for like a very short period of time, like blip on the map, probably not going to find any information about it, never registered. But there was a while that I made really good theme decks. I loved, it was referenced to me before that I was moneyballing it, where I would try to make like weird, like the most successful cheap decks that exist.
Okay.
So I was just obsessed with the game. And then obviously collecting, I had all these cards and I don't think any of us were playing with our foils really at that point in time or anything like that. So I ended up buying a lot of stuff, and then I just kept it. Like I didn't have it in my heart to get rid of these cards. I had done that with my comics collection before. I had done that with Magic the Gathering cards that are now worth an absolute fortune. Dude.
Yeah, that's gone off the rail.
I had stuff from, I had like beta cards that were like, beta rares that if I had held on to, I don't want to think about it. But so I was like, I'm not getting rid of Star Wars. It meant too much to me. And then, so I just had it, and I kind of kept them in a box, like as I started my new career, I had played a couple of tournaments in Worcester, Massachusetts.
So where are we in is this like early 2000s?
This is, after the game stopped, I maybe played for a little bit more. And then I just was like, well, I started my teaching career. And towards the late 2000s, I found out that there were some local guys playing a tournament in the comic shop that I worked at. And I was like, well, I want to play. And
this was in Massachusetts?
This was in Massachusetts. This was in Kashyyyk. And we got there, and I got there, and I was like really excited to play. And then I realized that the game had been moving forward without me. Okay. And there were all these virtual card sets and stuff that were out there and that people were playing with. And I was like, oh, I'm not what I was. Like, I'm not that anymore. I'm not there. And
that's all it takes. Like, a whole new set of cards to completely change the dynamic.
Yeah. There's like 24 of them, isn't there now at this point in time? Like, how many Now they got like the because it used to be you download the. I remember like there was a little while we were downloading the virtual card slips that you would slide in.
Yeah, I mean, you could still do those.
Yeah, yeah. I got lost. I like fell out of it, and then I started playing again with these guys, really great people, and they were like helping me navigate along, and I did okay, but not what I used to be. I used to be, what weird deck is he going to have this time? And then next thing you know, I'm murdering you with Yoda or something like.
Well, yeah, I mean, with any game, like you step out of it, you're not playing the hundreds of games to discover like where the slight nuance advantages are, and it's gonna happen.
I'm not precious about sealed product the way a lot of people are. I know there's like this current obsession with it, but I remember I run a comedy show at a toy and collectible store in Burbank, California called Blast from the Past, and they had a pack of Endor, the sealed pack of Endor for like $3.
Oh, I would have
this
bought
was
that
2 years ago, or like 3 or 4 years ago or whatever, and I just took it. I bought it and I opened it and I pulled an ATST cannon, which was great.
Nice.
But I shared it on the group because I had joined the group because I was like, this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about. And everyone's like, you opened it? And I was like, oh yeah, that's what you're supposed to do with a pack of cards. Like, I was like, yeah, that's how you find out what was in it. Like, I don't believe in like Schrodinger's pack. Every pack has a Vader until you open it, and then you find out that you got another, slip sliding away.
Well, yeah, based on my opening videos, definitely no Vaders in there.
No, I do love. What's funny is I was learning. I recently started like researching pack breaking videos because it's something that I really wanted to do because I just loved opening, and I did find yours and Eric Garshow.
Yeah, he's been doing it for a long time,
and he does those like random ones where he like
the dice.
I love those videos. Like, I love watching you guys open those videos. It's really fun, and I've been doing it like. Top sent me some Garbage Pail Kids, and I've opened a lot of like old junk stuff. Like, you can look around me and see there's some Marvel Masterpieces, 1992 Marvel Masterpieces cards here.
Oh, nice.
And like, and I got those, and people are like, those are really valuable sealed. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to open them. And people get like, they lose their minds. And I'm like, that's what's fun though. That's the fun thing. Like,
yeah,
it's not good for your career to just stare at it.
No.
But there's a great community. I've played out here. I've brought my cards, and then people were like, you're going to probably want to use some of our decks. Because, there's a great guy named Anthony Howard out here in the LA area. He actually comes to my stand-up show a lot too.
Okay.
The reason he did is because I bribed people to come out I had a bunch of cards, and I said, on the CCG Facebook group, I said, and it was like Qui-Gon with lightsaber. It was a bunch of like really good rares. And I said, if you come to this, you can have one of these cards for free. Just because I was like, well, that'll be something I can do with them, right? Like, I wasn't playing at the time.
Yeah.
I wasn't playing at the time.
Yeah, no, definitely.
So, and then he ended up coming, and we ended up becoming friends, and he tries to get me to come out to tournaments, but I rarely ever have time to play, let alone to throw decks together. But it's
but if you can casually play, then that's for most people.
I wish I could play more. It's one of those things that I wish I had more time. It's like a lot of my listeners will ask me like what game systems I have, and I'm like, none. Like, I can't. I'm like, if I get a PS5, I will lose my career because I will play. Video game.
Jedi Survivor, like, I would be lost. Like, you wouldn't see me or that new Zelda game. Like, I can't start that. I can't start that. I'd love to, but I can't.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I guess if you're like a Twitch partner streaming the games, I guess in a way
that's really hard to do. By the way,
it is. It's very tough.
I have a Twitch account, but I mean, even just casually. You can get a few hundred people for sure, but I mean, to do that as like a job, like that's exhausting.
Yeah,
Those
dude.
guys
I
are
mean,
the full time guys gaming all the time. Like you're giving up everything else. Like it's exhausting.
Yeah, and it's like I have so many different projects that I do over the course of the month that I'm like, I just don't have time. But I love the community so much that I'm like, well, I'm going to stay here. So I just kind of exist on the fringes of what's happening now. I look at the cards and I'm like, those are great. Like I look at them like they're art now, while I'm still sitting on my like Smaug hoard of the stuff that I had bought when it had come out. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, I love it. I love Star Wars. It's such an important part of my life, and this game, for better or worse, did help define that because, Star Wars is not nerdy. It's not. It never was.
No, it's mainstream.
It started out mainstream and it stayed mainstream unless you were reading like the novels or whatever. This game was a way to take something mainstream and make it incredibly niche. Even though it was the number 2 trading card game in the world when it was canceled, thanks Wizards of the Coast and Lucasfilm.
I know.
But like we got so weirdly into, like, I don't know about you, but I was so into like the lore when you build off of stuff.
Oh
like this.
Yeah, that was like the best part. Like I loved reading all the like, ooh, it really expanded the universe for you because in the 90s, I mean, you could read the books, yes, but there was this Star Wars like gap, like this hole where we had it and then nothing. And some people went to Star Trek where that filled in that gap.
Yeah.
But the lore was like, this is like characters that were like part of the movie, but like maybe slight off screen or like kind of right off there. So it felt like your world was expanding reading this lore. That was definitely a huge appeal to me. And like, I didn't have, like when I initially got the cards, like I also started with a 2-player Premier box. Like I didn't realize how expansive it was. Like I didn't have the lists. I didn't have, somebody to be like, let me tell you the thousands of cards that are going to break down in here. Like I was just like, ooh, I don't have this. This is new. This is neat.
Yeah, because that set was just like, there's some stormtroopers, some rebel troopers, like you're getting generic stuff. And then as soon as you open a pack and you pull like a Kid Cack, you're like, I don't know what's happening right now.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, there's like infinite different things in here. Like it just felt like I don't know, massive to me.
Yeah, it really did open up that world. And I brought that into my comedy career as well, where I would talk about, like Star Wars, it's not nerdy, but I found a way to do it. And it's like, I'll be the guy that you don't want to watch Star Wars with now. So I'll be like, anyone want to watch episode 4? And they're like, no, because we can't make it through the goddamn cantina scene without you trying to give me Trinto Duaba's backstory. I'm like, yeah, but it's really exciting, and like you find a way to make something really great, tedious and insufferable. Because you're like, all right, that's Mayo right there, and right, that's Dice Ibagon, and the Shistaban and Wolfman Lax Sivrak, and like you get that information by playing this game and collecting religiously and doing everything you can to have a weird game.
So how emotionally invested are you into your cards and your collection?
Currently, right now,
scale of 1 to 10.
I think I'm going to do a 5, and the reason I'm going to do a 5 is because it's actually a 10 and a 0. So I'm averaging them together. In that, I don't. And I may have mentioned this before, I'm not precious about stuff. Cardboard rectangles are cardboard rectangles. That is what they are. You cannot eat them, you cannot live in them, and you cannot drive them. They are not important to your survival. So in that regard, and I'm a person who lives in the collectibles world. I collect stuff, but I've had to remind myself that, you can't. I sold a Mickey Mantle autographed card for rent, and I was really upset about it one time. And my dad had to explain to me that you can't live in a card. So that stuck with me for a long time. So that's the 0 part, which is these are not paramount to my survival. My life will not be worse if I don't have them in my life. Here's the 10. These cards built my personality throughout high school. I bought them, let's see, 1995. That's what, 8th grade to 2001. That's my sophomore year of college, or sophomore, yeah, no, junior year of college. So like my entire high school experience was going to school with people that didn't do anything with this game. Like I was one of
Right.
2 people in my high school that played that game and ended up becoming best friends with the other person who played. Like, so
That's
that,
funny because that's kind of how I met my best friend. Actually, he was a total slob. I was walking the halls in school, and he opened his locker, and everything spilled out. And what spilled out was Star Wars cards. So they're like some Cloud City cards and stuff. I was like, Star Wars cards? You collect Star Wars cards? And he was like,
really?
yeah,
And
do
you didn't
too?
know?
And I didn't know. And like, the rest is history. Like he's still my best friend.
Yeah, me and this guy did have kind of a falling out, but we would spend, like, I would go to his house on weekends and we would just build weird decks, and we'd have like bounty hunters versus musicians decks and stuff like that. Like
Okay.
we became very big, and it was, I understand when we think about ground and pound and we think about toys and mains, mains and toys with 7 senses and 7 altars and 3 controls, and you would just dominate the game. I do not respect those players. I just don't. I never did. I thought they were unimaginative even when I was 15 years old. I was like, congratulations, you
There's
have
got to be a
more.
better way.
Yeah, I was like, congratulations, you have more money than me. Like, that's all it was.
And I think that may have also changed the game too, in that like it became more and more unattainable. Like if you really wanted a deck of like 20 Vaders, like you need to go find those, And at a time where the internet wasn't as accessible and easy to find this stuff as it is now, arguably it'd still be hard to get that like in short order. But back then, I mean, the internet and trading and finding stuff was a lot different. Like you had to physically go into a store and hope they had stuff. Like I got a lot of my packs out of going to the mall, like going to some collectible shop and be like, hey, do you have Star Wars cards? And like they might have a few packs on them, and like I'd buy some of those. But when they stopped selling them, was like, oh, I guess I don't really have access to these anymore.
Yeah, thank God eBay. I was lucky to always find myself in positions where I knew where the cards would be, which was I guess convenient. But so like, look, so I established that I never respected the people that played mains and toys. There was the Kashyyyk regionals that came out right when Death Star 2 came out. They were like right afterwards. And everybody that won is because they had emperors and they had Jedi Lukes and they had Lord Vaders, and they were turning people over to the dark side, and it was boring and unimpressive. What I wanted to do was beat you with the cheapest deck I could possibly make. A deck that was almost all commons and uncommons. And I would set money limits on my games where I would say, okay, you can own, like, your entire deck has to be less than $100 in scry. So I'd go to the
This is what you tell your opponents, or this is what you
challenge? So I tell myself.
Oh, okay.
So I would say, what deck can you make that will dominate a tournament for no money? And I would win tournaments where I was like having Lando play Sabak on a Blizzard Walker at the casino, and win by 40 or something like that. And like,
you probably threw off people that would play you though, because they're expecting one thing and you're like playing something obscure, so like they can't go for the usual like
it's
strategies. They kind of got to think about it again.
I had this one deck that it was so brutal. It was I think the only rare that I had. No, I had Darth Vader was the only card that was worth more than like $2. So it was Vader's, and then what you would do is I would put a couple stormtroopers down, but I forget what the thing to react would be. But basically I would bait people into attacking me, dump troopers down, play, you overestimate their chances or whatever. And then Trooper Assault, Dark Jedi Presence. And I think so like you'd win these fights after you have tallied up everything that you've done. And I think I'd win by like, I won the battle by, 53, but also that's tripled. So you now have 159 battle damage that you have to handle. And so you'd win in these insane amounts of these numbers, and people would just, and it was literally just like a Vader and it was even like, I think it was Vader, and then I had to use Vader with lightsaber because of his value. It was so much lower. So I'd throw like a Vader with lightsaber, and then maybe like I think it was like I threw a Mandalorian armor on him or something like that. I don't know why, but there was something where it was like cheap, and that's how I wanted to win. Or like the one where I had Yoda on Yoda's hut, and then everything else was just like surprise assaults and out of commissions and all these like weird cycling used interrupts that would keep me alive while I would just absolutely ruin the life of the person that I was playing. Like that's fun to me. That's a fun game.
That is creative. I like it a lot.
Yeah.
So what do you have any collecting goals at the moment? This doesn't even have to be Star Wars CCG things, but do you have any shorter or longer term goals?
I have. So as far as collecting goes, I actually shifted my collecting. So I used to be like a set collector of things, and I realized that, especially in LA, where space is at a premium, pardon the pun, I realized like, instead of doing that, I'm just going to collect like a character. So I don't collect like full toy lines or stuff like that, but it's like I'll collect every IG-88. Like I chase IG-88. That's the guy I like.
Card,
in card, like, in toy, in So and if you, I can move my camera up a little bit, and you can see right above my head, there's like the IG-88, the gentle giant, big one. There's like there's little mini busts. There's the Power of the Force IG-88, and then the original IG. So like that's so much more manageable for me to do that. And I know a lot of people in the business and in the collectibles world tend to have what I like to call real people jobs, where they have like insurance and money and houses, and that's awesome. I don't have, like, my room is my man cave because I live in Los Angeles. Spaces at such a premium. So I've learned to sort of make that adjustment, but then also I do sort of fall back into old collecting goals. So like, what would I want? Like, my goal would be like a PSA 10 of all the IG-88 cards. Like that would be my goal, because I'm collecting that one guy. Why not collect the best version of that guy?
Okay. That'd be pretty cool.
Right? Like that. And that's also like, I feel that's super attainable.
It's definitely attainable.
As far as
you could even frame it on the wall if you had space. You don't even need a shelf, or you could put it in a drawer if you wanted, I guess. I mean, it's not that bad.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, all the cards that even have IG-88 on the cards, there's only like 7 or 8 of them, Well,
you going for like his neural inhibitor and like
I mean, right? Like probably not, because I'm not a weirdo about it. But like, I mean, if I was like, we don't need their scum either, or what, or whatever,
or like IG-88 in IG-2000.
Like that one I would get. So I'd get IG-88 in the IG-2000, IG-88 with weapons, foil IG-88, standard IG-88. That's 4 character cards total.
Yeah.
Sure. Graded at a 10. I mean, and plus, like I have a few. I could send them in. I'd actually like to get some of my cards graded. I'm just I don't know how to do that.
Well, I do that for other people. They just send it to me, and I send it in. But if you have other people locally, you can do that too.
Yeah, because I have a friend who does that for like a living.
Because PSA is what isn't it out of Anaheim or something? I don't remember where it is, but it's probably it's probably in your backyard, so it'd be silly to ship it out.
Yeah, no, it's
like
I
you
know
could probably
there's
walk into the office and do it.
yeah, hey, can I do this? There's one that started in Venice, I think, called like Tag or something like that
Yeah,
as
you can
well.
find a store, they'll submit stuff on your behalf.
Yeah, I have a guy who that's what his job is he's a friend of mine, another comedian. And he's like, I send stuff like every 2 months I send stuff in. So and he said he'd come in and go over the cards. He's like, I don't know a lot about Star Wars, but I know about condition. So
yeah, then I'll look through those.
But yeah, that's the kind of stuff where I've instead of like I collect toys, I'm a toy collector as well, and an IG-88 from 1980, like on card, mint on card. That would be what I'd want.
I think I have an IG-88 action figure. I have like a handful of Star Wars action figures, not many, but
are they still on their cards or are they loose?
No, he's loose.
Yeah, see, I have that loose. I do have him loose, but like a carded version of that. Like, so like as far as like I collect, so like you see the carded ones here, and you see these ones were graded or whatever.
Yeah, they look sharp.
It looks great on display. I would love that. I would love to have the IG-88 in there.
It exists somewhere. Somebody.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, and like, so basically what it comes down to is like collecting to me is searching out emotional touchstones without being precious about it. Like the He-Man figure that I actually collect is a character named Clawful. He's a lobster man. I love him because my brother stabbed me for him. We got into a fight over him and he stabbed me and I won because he stabbed me. And I was like, well, that just became my guy. So now I have a bunch of Clawful action figures because of that. And like, for some reason, I just always loved IG-88.
He's an intriguing character. I feel like you got like a taste of him through Shadows of the Empire when it came out in N64. Right. That kind of like added to like the myth, the legend of him a little bit.
His Tales from the Bounty Hunters was fantastic. If you ever read that anthology,
I think I have. Is that an older one?
It's the Star Wars novels. There were 3. There was Tales from the Empire. I believe that's what it was called. Yep. Tales from Jabba's Palace and Tales of the Bounty Hunters.
I think I have all those.
And basically, it's like IG-88 uploaded himself onto the second Death Star and was basically like poised to take over the Death Star and basically
sounds vaguely familiar.
And he was going to basically become like Unicron, and he was having like this like Cold War with Palpatine, letting him know that he was in charge and stuff. And like right when he was about to like really start taking over, Lando and Wedge blew it up. and that was a really interesting. It was
the Empires either way.
Yeah, but I liked that sort of expansion of the lore. So like I thought IG-88 was really neat. I thought it was cool, and so he's also a droid thrown together out of garbage as far as like the history of him is concerned, which I thought was even funnier.
Well, and he's like basically one of like 6, I think, right? Like there were a bunch of assassins.
Yeah, there were. I believe there were 4. There was 4. A through D, I believe.
I know there were more than one, and like they were all released, and they killed the scientist or something that made it, right? Like
within a fraction of it, going up seconds of going online, establishing, realizing, and murdering immediately.
Yeah, exactly.
And I thought that was really interesting. And when you look at like the character's design and stuff, and you look at like Woo-Her in the cantina, and you see IG-88's head as a drink mixer beforehand, and you're just like, yeah, that's pretty cool. That's a pretty fun.
You ready for like a blitz round of questions? These are meant to be kind of.
Let's blitz out, man. This is great. Like this is exactly what I want to talk about.
All right, perfect. So, what is your all-time favorite Star Wars movie?
Empire Strikes Back. Although the most fun is Solo.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Who's your favorite Jedi?
Aayla Secura.
Interesting.
She's super hot, yeah.
What? Well, yeah. Which lightsaber color would you choose for yourself?
I would say red, and then people would be like, "You'd be blue," and then I'd be like, "Yeah, probably." So I'm gonna say blue on consensus.
Okay. What is your favorite starship in the Star Wars universe?
My favorite starship in the Star Wars universe, I guess I have to say the IG-2000, right?
Oh, yeah. Okay. That makes sense. If you could have any force power, which one would you choose and how would you use it?
The choking. No, I mean, I like, that's an interesting one. Probably the this maybe I do but deserve red. The mental manipulation.
The mind control.
Yeah, mind control. That seems like the one that you'd want, right?
Yeah, I think
Like
I
I don't
would
need to
probably want that too.
I don't need to force pull anything to me. I'd just be like, hey, can you go get that for me? And they'd be like, totally can.
Which Star Wars planet would you most like to visit?
To visit Coruscant.
Okay. Who is your favorite Star Wars villain?
Ooh, IG-88. Side
Which
note, I got IG-88 put into Star Wars Forces of Destiny, the cartoon.
Oh, that's awesome.
The writer asked me, oh, never mind, God.
No, I was going to sidebar because the next question would have been which droid is your favorite? So we know it's that. So I'm going to ask a different question of
Sure.
Who's your favorite Star Wars villain that's not a droid?
My favorite Star Wars villain that's not a droid. Would probably be
General Grievous is kind of what, hybrid? I mean,
yeah. Well, he's a prosthetic. He's a living being. He's just kept alive by prosthesis.
Yeah.
I would. That's interesting. I'd probably pick somebody like I like the scummy underbelly of Star Wars. Like I like the seedy nastiness of it. So I would probably be someone like
that snake thing in Solo in the beginning. What was her?
Yeah, the Madam
Lady Proxima.
Lady Proxima. That was actually a really cool design. My favorite it might be Darth Maul. Yeah, I'd have to say. I guess I'm friends with Sam, so I'd have to say Darth Maul just on principle of getting
okay. What is your favorite lightsaber duel in the Star Wars franchise?
It's Duel of the Fates. Isn't that everybody's? It has to be Duel of the Fates, right? Like
everyone's had different answers, but that's definitely something that struck me because when I was a kid, like, and the new Star Wars was coming out, and like they were showing that in the trailer, and you're like, oh, like this is gonna be
in the music video. There was the music video. Remember, it was on TRL.
Oh my god!
Duel of the Fates. It premiered on TRL.
That's a throwback.
Yeah, I'm going to. You can tell I don't believe in binaries because I'm very gray on it. I think the best looking one, like the best choreographed one, is Duel of the Fates. I think the most emotionally dominant one is Return of the Jedi, when he just savagely beats his father nearly to death with the music playing. I think that has the most emotional heft.
Good clarification. Yeah. If you were to join Rebel Alliance or Galactic Empire, which side would you choose?
The Rebel Alliance.
Why?
I hate cops.
Okay. Who's your favorite non-human character in Star Wars?
So we'll remove IG-88 from that system.
I'm really kind of gearing towards like aliens here.
Okay, yeah. So like which terrible Halloween costume from the first one do I like the most? That's interesting.
Hanukkah sisters? You get them both?
But they're human.
Are they?
Well, they're
humanoid-ish.
Yeah. I mean, I think they're from Corellia, aren't they?
No.
Oh no, they're perfect. I don't know why I thought that they would be from Corellia when they're.
No, but they get the alien eyes on the card, right? Does that count for anything?
Do they? I don't remember them having alien eyes on the card. We could talk about them all day.
I don't know. I'm just.
So let me see. So non-human. That's a really good question. I'm trying to think. Oh, you know who it might be is
Big Grand Am, right?
No, why am I forgetting? Of course, I'm about to say his name, and then of course it gets out of my head. But the Duros bounty hunter from. Why am I forgetting his name? I'm so stupid. From the Clone Wars.
Cad Bane.
Yeah, Cad Bane. Why was I forgetting his name? It like totally escaped my head. I think Cad Bane is one of the coolest representations of a character.
Cad Bane is a formidable foe too, even
Yeah.
among the Jedi. So he is a very interesting character.
Yeah.
What is your favorite line or quote from the Star Wars films?
My favorite line. Okay. I'm gonna say it, and the reason why is important. But Han will have them shields down. We've got to give him more time. And the reason for that was
That is good.
whenever I was going to play the original Star Wars Battlefront 2 with my best friend who lived far away over the internet, I would call and he would yell that into my ear, and that's when I knew it was time to play. So it was call and release, really.
That's awesome.
There's an emotion tagged into that line.
Okay, if you could have a mentor from the Star Wars universe, who would you choose and what wisdom would you seek?
Oh, mentor. Who would I choose and what wisdom would I? I'd need to find somebody. It would probably be Mace. Okay. Somebody between the like sort of annoying pacifism of Yoda and the aggression of Qui-Gon. I feel like Mace is right in the middle of that. And you know, really big on being assertive, you know.
Okay. What's your favorite Star Wars spin-off or standalone film from the Disney era?
Favorite, and you said standalone, right?
Spin-off or standalone?
Andor.
I'll accept film or series.
Andor. Andor is the best Star Wars thing that's ever been made.
Andor is
like from a script perspective. Andor is
it's brilliant.
Andor is prestige television camouflaged as a Star Wars thing.
It starts off slow, so like I think a lot of people had struggle like getting committed into it, but like once you're into it, you're like, this is actually really amazing.
what I like, the best things of Star Wars are the ugliness of it, and so in a way, Rogue One, like the reality of what war is versus what we're shown. So it's like, you know, like Star Wars, you're like, oh, look, they're in X-Wings, they're in a war room, blah, blah, blah. And like the you know, oh, they got these Death Star plans. And then you watch Rogue One and it's like rebels committing murder and like being like really nasty because they have to be nasty. And that to me, showing me the reality of it. And I think The Last Jedi actually did a really good sort of take on that as well.
Which alien race do you find the most fascinating?
Which alien race do I find the most I mean, it might be the Hutts because they've established a pretty interesting empire on their own for being, you know, so deceptively immobile and still doing all of that really incredible stuff. I would find them probably super fascinating.
And to be so threatening, I guess. It's like everyone's like, oh, the Hutts.
Yeah, the other one might be Twi'leks because they're what seemed like a very clear allegory in at least expanded world of like natives, like Native Americans. So I think that where, you know, the stuff they've had to deal with, or I think pretty much anybody that's been sort of subjugated by American imperialism.
What's your favorite lightsaber design or hilt style?
Oh man, so I've always liked Vader's, but I think that might be just because it's Vader's lightsaber. But the introduction of Darth Maul's design might be. Oh, you know what? No, it's absolutely going to be Dooku's.
With the curved hilt.
The curved hilt that's like, isn't it like Charlemagne's sword or something like that? Like it's designed to imitate like a famous like ruler's sword.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
Which I think is really cool.
If you were hired to act in the next Star Wars movie or show, what would you want your character to be like?
Someone seedy, somebody in the sort of like the underground, you know, I mean, it's hard when a comedian from Boston. Well, Bill Burr had that part already covered pretty well in The Mandalorian. So it you know, I guess I would have to pick somebody, either someone in a wretched hive of scum and villainy or somebody in the sort of seedy underbelly of the rebellion.
Who is your least favorite Star Wars character?
My least favorite Star Wars character. That's hard because there are several. I mean, I understand why he's important, but C-3PO is just such an obnoxious character.
Who's your favorite bounty hunter? Well, I guess we know that already.
Yeah.
What Star Wars moment has the most emotional impact on you?
Ooh. Was it realizing that episode 1 was bad? Which Star Wars moment had the biggest emotional
what hits you when you see it, every time, or had the biggest one?
I mean, it might be the Vader finish in Rogue One because it had a payoff that we had never really seen before. We'd never seen Vader. Vader was always menacing the way like a bouncer at a club is menacing, where you're like, don't screw with that guy. Like, he's terrifying. Like, you never...
Like theory, but you don't see it. Yeah.
Yeah, and like all of his duels were very fencing, which is not particularly scary.
Right.
Seeing him cut through an entire cadre of rebel troopers to get what he wants, I think was something that we had been waiting for a while. So it might be that, which is weird because it's so recent and it's not tied to my childhood that way, because there's a lot more, Empire Strikes Back, there's so much for it, like the I love you, I know, that's good.
There's a lot to celebrate about Rogue One, in that it definitely, just as a whole, like, it spoke to me because I like World War II, like the films, like the Saving Private Ryan, Band of Brothers, God, what was that? There was some other show on Netflix I'm blanking on, but they're just like really
the Pacific or something
pretty sacrificial, they're just great. And like, this was just like taking all those elements and throwing it in.
I was on a podcast on the greatest spy movies, and I brought that as one of my suggestions, where Star Wars is, in my opinion, Rogue One is, in my opinion, one of the better spy movies that exists.
Which Star Wars species or alien race would you want as your loyal companion?
I wouldn't hate having a Wookiee by my side, that's for sure. I mean,
but would you need like a bouncer / bodyguard around you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would need a Wookiee.
It's okay. People wouldn't like want to approach you anymore. They'd be like, "Hey, man, like, what's up? Like, don't pull my arm out."
That's okay. I don't mind people. I don't mind people leaving me alone. No, yeah, because I mean, I'm trying to think like, who would be? I forget what his race is, but Effent Mon, from what I remember about his character, that dude is like loyal to a fault. And he was like the only true friend that Jabba had in the entire audience chamber. So it seems to me like that would be kind of person that you'd want, or or an Ithorian. They're pretty chill, right?
Yeah,
they're like the stoners of Star Wars, right?
Who's your favorite Rebel Alliance member?
I was immediately going to say Han. So and I'm trying to think through all the characters, because there's also so much lore now that I'm just trying to go through. So Rebel, it's probably Han.
Okay.
Because he's the seediest member of the Rebel Alliance.
Switching gears back to collecting here. So what is your most prized Star Wars collectible? I mean by like internally, like, what do you like the most? Not like what's the highest value, but what means the most to you?
It might be something as simple as like my IG-88. I have like a little IG-88 collection that I like a lot. And that sort of just is like that idea of like, don't grow up kind of a thing. So it might be, is it that? Like, weirdly, I got rid of a lot of my collectibles during the pandemic. Like, I had a lot of Star Wars statues from Sideshow and stuff like that. And I just was like, I don't need these anymore. Although I still have a Baby Yoda, or the Child. I still have their one-to-one Baby Yoda. I've never opened it.
Okay.
In the garage. So I wouldn't say that that's important to me, seeing as how I just have it in a box. But I don't know. It's It might be this box right here, which is my first ever box that I bought.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, so it might be that. Like I have a sealed one here somewhere too, but that's the one that's mine.
If you could have any one collectible item like ever for the Star Wars, like even if it's something that even doesn't exist, like what would it be? What would your Grail be?
And we have no limit?
No, just like what is your Grail?
So this is a longer answer, but you'll get it. When I moved out here, I started dating somebody that worked for Hollywood Auctions, and I visited, and she's like, "What's your favorite movie?" And I said, "Empire Strikes Back." And she said, "Hold on one second." And then she went into a room and then came back out and put Chewie's blaster rifle from Bespin in my hands. And she started to tell me what it was. And I was like, "No, I know what this is." And then she goes, and right over there, that's Darth Vader's helmet or Darth Vader's, the cowl and whatever. And then she said, and right there next to it is a snowtrooper helmet. We just sold that. It's the most valuable Star Wars thing we've ever sold because there was only like 8 of them made. And I think they had sold it at the time for like $280,000.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, long story short, one of those 3 things. No, the cowl and helmet of Darth Vader from Empire Strikes Back. You said no limit. So in that regard,
no limit. No,
I'd take it. But if we're talking like mass produced things that you'd want, I would, it would be silly of me not to pick one of like the ultra rare foils because the game was so important to me. And I have a couple, but I don't have any of the big, the ultra rare foils I have are like 3PO with his parts showing and the Qui-Gon AI. So it's like they're not the higher end ones.
You want the Darth Maul Young Apprentice AI foil?
The Maul Young Apprentice, the Palpatine, because that's ultra rare too, right? Is the Palpatine?
Yeah.
And the Luke, they're both ultra rare. Yeah, it would probably be those from being like in pure honesty, like because of my love for this game.
What is your biggest regret from your collecting journey?
Star Wars wise, probably not buying sealed product when I had the chance.
I think we can all attest to that. We can all appreciate that.
But you would all hate me because I would have opened it all by now. I don't have the patience to keep, like, the fact that I have so many sealed boxes of cards near me, like right behind me, if you see, right, there's like DC Cosmic cards, Garbage Pail Kids, Shadowhawk cards, because I bought them as kind of a lark. And those like I want to open those right now. I know I have to wait until I film a video, but I want to open them. I want them. I want them now. And
with the intention of creating a set out of them or grading them or just these are cool and then I'll sell them.
It's fun because it's fun to open sealed packs of cards. It's so fun.
I mean, it is.
Like there's stuff like I have handfuls of packs of Pokemon cards here. I don't play Pokemon, never really did. I want to open them. I want to open those. And it's funny because I opened 2 packs of Star Wars cards on the episode of Nerd, which is a podcast I do with my friend Ray Alvarez. It's a monthly show, and we did a card game series, and he got and sent me 2 packs of limited Premier, which was really exciting.
Oh,
and
awesome.
This is why you don't open sealed product, is that these were the 2 rares.
Hey, Tonica Sisters.
It's the Tonica Sisters. And as
look,
soon as
they
you
have alien eyes in there.
Yeah. Yeah, they might be wearing weird contact lenses. I can't tell. And black too. So like, not worth opening, but also like it was so much fun going through the cards.
Tonica Sisters is a rare 1. It's not a rare 2. So you did get a better of the rares. You could have gotten
ironically, it's a rare 1 when it should have been a rare 2 to fit the theme.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is there anything else you want, collectors to know of things you're buying, selling, what you're doing in the space? I mean, I
Well, I
certainly
mean,
want you to be able to plug your channel.
yeah.
I
So,
did subscribe to your podcast, so
oh,
that's
thank you.
awesome.
So I have a lot of podcasts. I started out my first ever podcast was on a website called crack.com, which was a very popular comedy website. It's still out there, but it's sort of waned in sort of the quality of who they had working for them. Although there are lots of wonderful people that work there, but there was like a heyday and it's gone. I started there on a podcast called Unpopular Opinion, which we are continuing and moving forward with. We just recorded our 500th episode, which that's a lot. So you can check out Unpopular Opinion with Adam Todd Brown, as well as You Don't Even Like Sports, which is a sports podcast for people that hate sports. So those, like, I do those. I know it will. Our fans are nerds, so it's like, yeah, we're gonna do that. But it's really fun. Think of it as like, do you ever watch like 30 for 30s on ESPN? It's like that, but comedy, and they're very fun. So I do that, but we've been opening packs of sports cards on his YouTube called You Don't Even Like Sports Cards is the name of the show.
God.
And then it's been really fun. I have so many sealed boxes.
So you're like opening stuff. You're like, I don't even know what this is. Like this.
Luckily, like, it's a lot of stuff from when we were kids. So it's like, all right, we're opening a pack of 1988 Tops. We're open a box of that. It's funny. But so I do that, and then I do with another of the crack guys, Tom Ryman. I do a show called Tom and Jeff Watch Batman on Gamefully Unemployed. But I'm getting to the fact that I've been doing pack breaks on my own YouTube, which is at Hey There Jeffro. And so here's what I do with stuff that I open now. I have a Patreon, and one of the Patreon tiers, I send you care packages, and those care packages come directly from when I open cards.
Oh, that's cool.
So like, and when people watch, and I'm like, look, call out dibs on a card if you want it, and as long as it's not like a $300 card that's going to totally upend the Patreon tier, where people are like, how come he got the $300 card and I didn't? So like, but I'm like, any of these cards you want, you guys just let me know and I'll mail them to you. So I've been doing a lot of that. And I think that has relaxed me a little bit I love collecting, but there's a feverishness to it that I used to have, and I've kind of pulled back, and I like gift giving. So that kind of feels like a part of it. I have stuff. I'm not precious about it. Like, if people are looking for foils that they're like, I never found a Blizzard 2 foil or what, like, I'm like, yeah, I got it, man. $2, I'll mail it to you or whatever. Like, I'm fine with it. Like, I unless it's a card that's worth a fortune, I'm usually just like, yeah, just take it. Like, but yeah, like, I think if you're in the part of the collecting community, if you are a bit of a nerd, I think shows like Nerd, I also do Jeff Has Cool Friends, which is my interview podcast. It's a lot like the one I did on Sideshow.
You're gonna have to share all these like links and handles.
Yeah, I know, it's a lot of stuff. I also run a comedy show, a live comedy show in a toy store in Burbank, and that show, it was called Mint on Card. On social media, it's nerdy stuff. I'm just a nerd. I'm just a nerd with a bunch of stuff, and if you are listening to this and you are like, oh, I love these things, or I want to listen to your stuff, or hey, what do you have this card? Like, yeah, hit me up. Like, if I have time to go through the stack, I'll go through the stack. I'll send you, like I said, I'm not crazy about hoarding. Right. I've shifted more into the experience of, like, I like opening the packs on camera because it seems like people like to interact with that. Like, because you do the same, right?
Yeah, it's definitely that. I mean, we all secretly want to keep ripping this and live through that nostalgia again, and the excitement of like what could be in there. And it's become to a point where some of the stuff that we want to open or used to open has become unattainable. It is expensive. I have spent way more on some of these packs than I would like to admit, and I definitely don't get my money back on pretty much all of it. But it is certainly fun.
I will add that if you are, this is for everybody, and this is something that I think is something that we should all take into consideration. If you are in this hobby or any hobby to profit, you are doing it wrong. You shouldn't be trying to profit off of a hobby. Then it's a job. Like it creates a disconnect. You're not going
Star
to
Wars space too, because you're playing off people's emotions and like nostalgia for it.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, like you can make some good deals and get a big win, but for all those wins, there's going to be plenty of losses. Like if anything, maybe you'll break even, but I agree. Like for the collector and me, like I like to have the sets. I like having them. I like looking at them. I like touching them.
They're gorgeous. Yeah.
You know, like they're interesting. They have stories behind them, but I will say, kind of on the piece of what you were saying, like the 0 to 10 emotionally connected. I think if I found out like all my collection like burned in a fire, like I'd be pretty upset about it. But if it was going to another collector who appreciated it and it was going to continue on, I would have much less of an issue of being like, yeah, I'll sell you these or I'll trade you these. You know, like there are things like I have that I like, but like there's somebody else who's complete set. And they from those cards, then they can finish the set. Then great, I'll sell it.
Yeah,
you know,
it's one of those. Yeah, I've
so
learned.
There's certainly some of that going on.
I had a like a good example of this would be that I had a pilot for a show that was supposed to be on Sci-Fi, and the conceit of the show was Antiques Roadshow, but at Comic-Con. That was the point of the show, basically. And my job was the historian. I was the person to tell you why you should care about Pokemon, Rocky Horror, Godzilla, whatever it was. It was my job to tell people about that. And people would bring these really interesting collectibles, and people that were like really down on their luck would bring these things in. Now, the pilot got picked up, then dropped, so we never actually went to air, which is a whole other story. But like, there was this one kid that had a 1-of-1 C-3PO Lego made of bronze or brass. I forget. He won it at Comic-Con.
Oh, weird.
In a raffle from Lego. It was like a 1-of-1 super rare minifig. And this kid, and I, after we filmed our little thing, I like kind of covered up my mic, and I was like, kid, I was like, you should just sell this thing. Like, you know, this thing's worth like $6,000. Like, you can fix a lot of problems with that money. Like, don't let collecting get to a point where your your toys or your comic books or your cards have a better life than you. You know, that they're treated better while you're starving. You know, it's maybe it's the anti-collector in me, which is ironic because you can see my background and I do collect.
I get it. You got to talk people off a cliff sometimes. You're like, yo, like this is real money you're talking here. Like you can do a lot with this, you know, think twice. I've definitely had to tell people like, maybe you don't want to drop $10,000 on a cardboard box, you know, when you could literally pay down a house, you could buy a car. You could get yourself out of debt. Like you could take your trip on a European, whole family on a European trip for like 2 weeks. You know, like what's really gonna stand out? Because you can get the same thrill on like a $5 card that you can sometimes on those bigger ones. It just
go to the store, go to your local card shop because they're back, and grab a pack of Topps Chrome Star Wars Galaxy. Open those up. Those are cool looking. Those are fun. It's certainly not the game we used to play, but it's not like Star Wars has disappeared. So I also those Topps Chrome cards are really cool. They are really neat. It's interesting. It's interesting to see where they've sort of gone now with that world. But I love collecting and the energy that comes from it, while understanding that like collecting shouldn't make life harder. It should be fun. And like you open packs of cards, right? Like you know, and we, you know, I call it Schrodinger's pack. You know, every pack of Death Star 2 has a Jedi Luke or an Emperor until it doesn't. So like if you're opening Death Star 2 packs expecting to get a big return on your investment, you're going to be unhappy 99% of the time. So open the pack of Death Star 2 because you want to remember what it felt like to open a pack of Death Star 2. Like, that's what you should be chasing, is that feeling, the energy, the love of a game that we grew up with, not the love of pulling a valuable card. Like,
yeah.
I think we damage ourselves when we exalt the money over the love of that. So that's why I'm not precious about it. That's the zero part of my collection. Like, my attachment to the collection is, you know, I do this because it's fun. And if, say, for example, C-3PO with his parts showing foil, right? So I have that foil. It's worth $300 or something like that. I don't know. I was hoping you'd tell me what it's actually worth, but something like that.
If somebody came more.
Yeah, but if somebody came up to me and like offered me below that, but they were like, I really want this card, I'd be like, yeah, take it. Like, yeah, sure. Like, that's not an advertisement for you all to start offering me $15.
Yeah, everyone's going to start sending you $50 offers.
but it is one of those things that I'm not. I have the card non-foil, so if I ever want to get back into playing, I'll use that. It doesn't, like, I'm not that tied to it, but I'm so connected to it. I don't know how to describe that. It really does explain that 0 to 10 scale. And it's like that with my toy collection too, where it's like, I don't collect Star Wars toys. I collect just IG-88, and that's good. And that's a finishable collection. That's a collection you can wrap up real quick. So I do that, but I love it. I love this. I love this hobby. I love the energy that people still have for a game that's been dead for 21 years. Like, this game has been kept alive, resuscitated. And if you get a chance and you want to hear more about my opinion about this game specifically in a longer format, I do have that show Nerd with Dre Alvarez. You can find it wherever you get your podcasts under Jeff Has Cool Friends, or at my YouTube at Hey There Jeffro. And me and Dre talk about my passion for that, my love for that, and my appreciation of the Players Committee for continuing this, and my appreciation for the Facebook group for keeping everybody connected together and introducing me to friends. And
this has been awesome. I think people will definitely hit you up. I'm certainly fascinated by everything you've kind of like opened up Pandora's box. I feel like we could go on for like 10 more episodes here. I'd love to be a guest or chime in on one of your podcasts one day. But yeah, this has been absolutely awesome. Thank you so much for joining in this. Let's do more of this.
I have a hard time saying no to stuff. So hit me up. I do really enjoy this. Like, I have, as somebody who retired from a real career, who I turned my back on a salary and insurance to follow what I love. And in doing so, I've had to recalibrate what I find important and how I move forward in life, and how I've had to pare down my comic book collection and realize that I'm not, do I need that Game Boy Color still? Or can I sell it to somebody that wants it, needs it, whatever? I've got so much crap that I love and would be just like, yeah, and I can get rid of it to somebody who will make it a prize in their life. And I love it. Yeah. I love it. It's fun. This is fun. This is so much fun. If Star Wars collecting causes you stress, then pull away and remember why you do this. That's the biggest thing I can say. If you're bummed because the pack you bought a box of Death Star 2 and you didn't pull anything, then why did you buy it? Like,
enough said. Like, that's it, folks. That's what sums it up in a nutshell right there.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Right. Thank you for hanging out with me. I really appreciate it. I know we really went long on this one, and I apologize for that. It's just
it's good stuff.
There's no subtlety to the nuances that I bring to conversations about this stuff. My brain is a pinball, and it goes everywhere. And that's the Star Wars collectible that I want the most. Star Wars pinball machine.
The end.